So far we've worked on these two poses together. The static pose, all of her shoulders, knees, waist, and everything is totally square and straight with the plumb line. And the plumb line starts at her throat and goes down even between her 2 feet. For this pose, where she's standing with her weight on 1 foot, her body shifted over, so the plumb line is at her throat, but here it's moving down to close to this foot here. Also, her hips are popping off to the left side, and the center of her swimsuit is moving to the left side, and the bottom of her swimsuit is moving here to the left side as well. And then to counterbalance that, her shoulders were popping to the right side. Now we're ready to move on to the next pose, which will be the most extreme version of a Contrapposto pose. So come over here to the last girl on the top of your page, and let's analyze this now. This picture here is the most extreme version of Contrapposto. And not so much because her shoulders and hips are popping and doing all this crazy stuff, but because all of her weight is here 100% on 1 foot. So down at the bottom, put in 100%. And let's go ahead and label this for her left side and her right side. Now the way that I was leading you up to this was, this girl was static pose 50-50. This girl going to her left side, it was a 65% of her weight. And now for the last one here again on the left side is 100% of her weight. The first thing that you're going to notice here is, since all of her weight is on this foot, the plumb line will start right here at the ball of her foot. And as you travel the plumb line up, guess where it ends up? Right at her throat. Exactly what was happening here. We start at the throat, we come down, we find the location for her foot. We started at the throat here, we came down to find out both feet were evenly divided. So same thing here. So go ahead and do this with me now. So put your pencil at her throat and draw this down to the ball of her foot. Now let's take a minute to go ahead and analyze the upper body. Now as you recall from the model before, her weight is here on the left side and her left hip was popping to the left side, which means that the upper body would do the opposite. So her shoulders were popping here to the right side. The same thing is going on here, so her shoulders popping to the right side. Something that I want you to be really careful about though is this shoulder here, she's even more exaggerated, dropping this down to have her elbow drop down and her hand come back up into the hip area. So yes, her shoulders are popping to the right side, but this is a little bit of an exaggerated angle for the shoulder. Once you move down to her bust level, you can actually see more or less what's going on. Now I know on yours it's really small, but if you look closely, you can kind of get a sense of where her bust is, as well as the armpits, and just get a general idea on here about where you think the bust is, and compare that as well with the shoulders. But keeping in mind that this shoulder angle here is a little bit too strong. So watch what I do to analyze this girl. So I'm looking, here's her armpit, shoulder, her other armpit's around here. If I'm trying to guess about where her bust is, and for me I can see a little bit of some wrinkles and shadows, and I can get a kind of an idea of the apex of her bust. And then I can come in here and I'm just going to guess what I think her bust level is doing. Once I have that, I can move up here using her right shoulder. I'm going to ignore this left shoulder. And I'm going to make sure that I'm staying parallel with what I'm guessing was about her bust area. And I'll draw my arrowheads over here, and I'll write the word pop here to the right side. So now you can see how her left shoulder, it just kind of keeps sloping down and down and down into space. There was no definite area to find, but over here you can see it really well. Now we want to find the bottom of the rib cage. If you come in here and find what you're guessing is about her waist area, and also keeping in mind that this is the crunch side. So let's go ahead and put an arrow out here and write the word crunch. Then we can kind of guess about what would be the bottom of her rib cage, and later on would be the top of her hip bones. And pretty much her hand is somewhere around right here on her hip bones. So with this bottom of the rib cage, I can go ahead and go parallel with my shoulders and that bust level, and I'll get my third line. So now we have the upper body from the shoulders down to the bottom rib cage. Again, this area is locked together. And let's go ahead and hit that in red. Now let's come down and we're going to analyze what her hips are doing. From the pose before, what we were able to do is come in here and find the center of her knees, draw our line, and now we're able to establish her knees and hip bones and her high hip all popping to the left side. In this instance, her knees are totally doing something different because she brought this foot up and she's putting her knee outwards. So we're not able to come in here and find the correct angle, especially because we know this should be popping here to her left side. Something that we can do here is we can try to kind of guess what is the top of her jeans doing, and that would tell us the angle that everything is traveling at. Also, we need to ignore this leg completely, and we're just analyzing this leg. So do this with me now. Starting from her hip bones, go ahead and get where her hip is popping out into space, coming back down to the knee. So come down in here and just take your best guess on where that knee is. If you look at yours, you can see there's kind of a hard wrinkle right here, and that's below her kneecap, so it would be just above that wrinkle. Come over here and write left, and we'll also write the word pop, just to remind us we're heading towards this side. Now it's kind of hard to see exactly what's going on, and if we could see the top of her jeans here, you'll be able to see it will be lower here and higher there. You can also see a little bit here from the curve of her shirt where it's lower here and higher there to give us that angle. Something else that might help too is if we ignore this leg, but we come over to find what would basically be the bottom of her swimsuit. You can kind of see here there's like a fly from her pants and the center seam of her pants. And if you were to find what would be the middle from here to there, it would give us an idea of what would be her center front traveling up towards her throat. And now we can come in and just take a guess. The bottom of the swimsuit would be here. This would be curving over to that. And this would be the inside of her leg. Just take your best guess on what you think is going on. The main point is that the crotch level is off to this side of the plumb line, and we're dividing this area in half. Now this will kind of give us a better sense of this is popping. So basically what I'm going to do here at this point, I'm just looking at the bottom of her shirt and the angle that it's traveling at, and I'm making sure that my line is popping off to the right. So the plumb, here I am square with the plumb line, here I am popping to the right, or to her left, sorry. So take your best guess and go ahead and get that now. And then we'll come down here to the bottom of the swimsuit. And we'll show that popping also to the left. And then bring this down to her knees. And then we move up here to where her hip bones would be at. So again, we were guesstimating that her waist was somewhere around here. Her hand is somewhere on her hip bones. So I'm going to just guess that it's about right here. So for me, where I put this middle line is getting close to what would be like her full hip area. It's a little bit off, but it's okay because we're just analyzing her clothes. Now what we can do is, for this lower area, going again from this top of hip bones down to the knee, let's get that in blue. So again, all of the upper body is here in red, and it's all angling and popping to her right side. And then the lower side of her body is all here in blue and popping to her left side. Let's come down in here and let's analyze her shoe and also the cuff of the hem of her pants right here. If you recall on this girl here, the static pose, everything going below the waist was curving down, 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 down. So then when we get to her jeans here, the same thing. This hem is curving down. Now she was able to slide her foot inside these jeans. So the jeans are slightly bigger than her foot. So draw the outside edge of the jeans here and here. And just to signify that this is the bottom of her jeans, let's go ahead and put in a top stitch, but make sure your top stitch is also following the same curve. Now her leg is going to be shorter, so there should be a little stair step right here. And then we'll get the, if this is the inside ankle here, the outside ankle is lower. And this will curve up and go inside the pants underneath. Same thing is going on here. On this illustration, you can see a little bit of the heel from the shoe, but let's ignore that. And let's just go right into, this is her foot, heading down into her shoe. And again, the front of the shoe is just a nice simple curve, popping out. The big toes are here, the little toes are there. Let's analyze this hand as well. So draw an oval for where her wrist bone is, and draw what would be the basic guideline for the outside of this, the outside of that. So do this very lightly. And then here you can see this would be her fingertips. So that distance there would be 3/4 of a head. So this would go from the top of her skull to the tip of her nose. Come in here and get the halfway point, and you can see that's her biggest knuckle on her hand right there. And then again, halfway towards the fingertips, that's all these knuckles here on her fingertips. Then if we were to start with the thumb, remembering that the thumb will come back inside of arc A, and it'll curve out. And you're getting a little bit of that 3/4 thumb rolling outwards and heading back into the hand, back towards the wrist. And you can go ahead and draw that 3/4 thumbnail. Then the pointer finger would go also back behind this arc here. So the webbing would go back there. And the thumb skin would go behind the pointer finger. And the pointer finger would have a little bit of an angle here. You can see it's right here at arc B. There's that joint right there. and that would be her pointer finger. Then the other fingers, what they're doing is all along this arc B, they are starting here, coming down and bending and tucking behind the pointer finger. The next one, the ring finger, tucks behind the middle finger. The pinky finger tucks behind that one. And then you'd come all the way back to your original wrist width. And again, this wrist width would be 1/4 of a hand. Let's take a minute to come up here and just analyze her face. Now right away you'll notice her face is tilted and it's at an angle. Also, she's looking up a little bit. So her face is not squared up with the camera, it's tilting up towards the sky more. If we were to turn this so it's straight up and down, we can still get a sense of here would be the center of her face. Her eyes would be here. The nose is here. The lips are there. And then you'll notice it's pretty much the same rules for the outside corners, the pupil, outside corners, and the pupil. And then these will be exactly 1 eye distance apart. So here's an eye here, there's another eye, and that's the third one. And then to the side of the head, this would be half of an eye out to here, half of an eye out to there. So basically a lot of the rules are still applying for the center of the mouth. This is her jawline coming back to her chin. And then if you want to, you just quickly analyze her hair. So it's all just kind of flowing here off to the side in chunks. And you're getting a little bit of her ear sticking down and her neck. And this hair here is wrapping around and it's dropping down with gravity. So gravity is heading this direction here, and gravity is heading this direction here. And this hair is flipping and flowing out into space. And again, I would always recommend come in here and draw this sash that's going around her neck, just to get a sense and a feel and a flow of it. You can see where it's tying here into a knot. On your photo, it's a lot smaller, but you can just quickly get a sense of the flow of it. Also, if you want to, you can analyze this hand coming out to her elbow, and there's the elbow joint. And we have the forearm. This would be the plain heart. This would be the sweetheart shape. The upper arm here, these are just parallel, traveling down. So let's just take one last look at this pose. Again, we have all of her weight is here on her left foot. So her hips and her knees are popping here to the left side. And then to counterbalance that, her shoulders and her upper body is popping here to her right side. We did a quick little analysis about this hand here. It's basically like a grasping view, but with a little bit of a front view to it. And then we're looking at kind of the flow of her hair, hand on hip, and then analyzing a little bit of the bow around her neck. So along with this pose, we had already analyzed the 60-35 as well as the static pose. If you look on your assignment, there's 3 more poses down below, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to analyze these on your own time as part of your homework, and then go ahead and submit this page to me. So scan this and then put your name on the top, and then the file name is right here. So you should name it your name _ Contrapposto poses page 1, and then submit this to me as part of your grade for this assignment.